Hi, all. I want to share a more personal story today about how I fell in love with the hobby of tabletop RPGs, specifically fell in love with D&D. It got me into the hobby. I've adored it for years. In a way, I still do. But I also wish to share how letting go of the game and no longer really being interested in it and why I don't think it's really a great game anymore, how that made me rediscover other RPGs and rekindled my love for the hobby as a whole. So the gain was greater than the loss. And I want to go through that and what got me into RPGs. And if you want to stick around till the end, I had a grand revelation as of late about why I think no big publicly traded company can, for what a tabletop role playing game is, and when it is at its best, I don't think a company beholden to big shareholders can provide you with the optimal experience. So, where did I start with RPGs? In the late 90s, I discovered second edition D&D. I saw this little computer game you might have heard of called Baldur's Gate 1. I saw that was in development because I was reading, PC gaming magazines back then. We still had those on a monthly basis. And I saw this game looks terrific. I loved Ultima 7. I liked open world RPGs. There weren't too many back then. RPGs were in a lull in the 90s and late 90s. They had a bit of a comeback. And I really got into that. And someone at school was running some sessions and told me, okay, this is tabletop version of this, and you can play it. Didn't get a solid group going, but I saw third editions coming out. I got third edition D&D, and I was super excited. I got the books and I absorbed it all, introduced some of my friends to it. I don't think they were that into it, but we played every now and then, and I was always looking for more groups. I introduced my cousin to D&D. He loved the concept, and he's been a huge TTRPG fan since. But he was the one who introduced me to other games because he found Legend of the Five Rings, and that was luckily so different from D&D, right? It was. I realized, okay, there are other games. Wow, you can play other things. How it played at the table was so refreshing because my favorite session, suddenly I realized these rules that I'd been absorbing for D&D, thinking rules are so important. Turns out some of our best sessions were just diplomacy and politics, and sometimes rarely a dice even rolled. So that opened up my eyes already to so many other possibilities. But being in South Africa at the time, I don't think getting too many different games was that easy. Certainly, as a young student, didn't have a lot of extra money for that. You couldn't really get PDFs and so on. It was just harder. And the hobby's always gone on and off, but I think I always stuck with D&D. Always found groups. Got fourth edition, fifth edition eventually. So I was happy with it. I played other things. I played Warhammer 40K and Rogue Trader and Dark Heresy and lots of World of Darkness, lots of vampire groups. Kind of like 15 years ago or so, started playing Mage and Changeling and everything to do with WoD, and that was also wow. I actually like this system more than D&D with the dice pools. It resonated more with me, but I was still like, oh, but D&D is still the fantasy comfort pick. So when did it all change? Well, in time, I realized that what happened a few years ago, and I literally mean 3 or 4, is I just started reaching a threshold of looking into indie RPGs, reading new systems. And I always in the back of my mind had this idea of D&D is a jack of all trades, but master of none, and that's fine. It's just a generic system. But then I realized that more is not more with RPGs. More is less. D&D has so many rule books, so many rules, and so many rules are explicit. I didn't realize this is what I personally don't like. Explicit rules that go, here's a magic missile. This is what it does mechanically. Some people might like that everything's so explicitly designed and so long-winded. If you read a D&D adventure or a rule book, everything has to be detailed because this is the way to play the game. There won't be any negotiation at the table. It's here are all the rules. And I'm not necessarily against crunchy rules or lots of rules. But I like if they're a little bit implicit and a little bit open for using your imagination, for negotiating with the players. Oh, they say this is how this spell manifests. How will that interact with my world? Maybe sometimes this magic interacts, well, like something with Dungeon Crawl Classics, magic as a random table where it can manifest in millions of different ways, making magic interesting, diverse, magical, unpredictable. But these very well defined, long descriptions in D&D, more and more I'm like, it is a game that restricts creativity, I think. Even though the setting I love, I've always loved and a shelf over there that you can't see is my 3rd edition Forgotten Realms source book. I've always loved the setting of D&D. You can use your imagination as much as possible, but I think the system holds you back. I started realizing just because it's so many rules and it's so explicit and it's so detailed, and you might go, oh, that's great, I want that as being that detailed. But everyone knows exactly how to play the game and exactly how everything works. And that's fine if you're a tactical combat person. For role playing, doesn't seem to it doesn't seem to incentivize really just using your imagination. And I didn't realize this until I picked up so many great little indie games when I started playing just a few years ago, even like touching all the Free League ones, the Forbidden Lands, Into the Odd was a revelation. Just looking into the Chaosium titles and how they're so big on role playing and how it's not really about the rules and how it's so intuitive to play it. You have a number and you just roll under. No more maths at the table. And this is someone who did engineering mathematics. I can do maths. But I've seen too many sessions where someone goes, what's my modifier here? Look at the sheet. Do I have a proficiency bonus here? This or that? I was like, some systems just go, library use, roll it, that or under. It's there. There's nothing to add. I just prompt you to roll something and it's there. Now, all of my gripes with the system of D&D would stand on its own. But then there's an added layer now. And that's just something that Quinn's from the great channel Quinn's Quest, I heard him say in an interview where he was pausing and reflecting on the role that D&D is playing in our hobby. And he was saying how it sucks the oxygen out of the air in this hobby. You go to conventions and it's just the world's greatest role-playing game, and that's all they seem to have. At least in South Africa, I've seen Comic-Con here has only D&D. That's the only thing you can play. Now, I've seen at Gen Con and Gary Con and lots of big things overseas, like you guys in America, the Shadow Dark tables are killing it right now. And every year they need to add more and more. And this is super positive and fantastic. And they're the ones that people seem to be excited for. But D&D is still the one that everyone knows. And that's fine. Here's my argument against that. I want to start with the premise that I started realizing through this awakening. Oh, it makes it sound too pretentious and absurd, but it really was. What made me love RPGs again was that I started realizing TTRPGs are as varied as films. TTRPGs are as varied as films in theme and ideas and everything else. And I'm not looking, by the way, for the D&D killer, the new great game that I'll only play that game. I'm not that type of person. I'm not a huge film fan. But if I were like some of my friends, they love all films. They watch a niche Japanese film here, another foreign language film. Have you seen this strange French film? Have you seen this horror film, this body horror film, this Cronenberg here, this other like spooky film? Have you seen this heartfelt drama? Have you seen this funny comedy? Sci-fi, fantasy, everything. It's so varied. They're not looking for the one film that I always watch. And I feel that way about TTRPGs. There's always something new. And even if you don't wish to play so many different role-playing games and you go, but I just want one because I just play this hobby every now and then, I'm okay with playing my D&D because that's my comfort pick. I think if you try other games, you'll be amazed by what they can do and just how dumbed down the creativity of D&D is. So I feel I found my home in the entirety of the hobby in terms of so many things that I can do and play and different experiences I can have. Now, how does that relate to D&D specifically? Because you could still go, yeah, but D&D can still be one of your favorite or one of the best ones. But here's the thing, my big opinion that I was expressing at the start, revelation, whatever you want to call it, it's that a big publicly traded company cannot give you the best TTRPG, not even close. Why not? Let me compare with AAA games. A lot of you might have played video games and you've played a great indie title as of late. And often some of the most creative ideas are there. But some people can still make the argument, okay, but have you seen the graphics on Assassin's Creed and all these other AAA titles? An indie studio cannot make that. They cannot hire the voice actors that are that good. Um, there are certain markers where you can go, this AAA game can do things that an indie can't. Now, that's not true for TTRPGs. Maybe some of those artists that they've hired are the best in the business, and there are some amazing art in D&D. Although I don't think that all comes from the artist. A lot of it is someone being told what to do to fit the brand and so on. And I think art made just as a labor of love from an artist's true vision, even though those people might not be completely as proficient always, some really are. Um, you often get better art in the sense of it speaks to you, it speaks to the theme of what you're playing a lot better. Also, this is a hobby that exists entirely in your mind. A AAA game isn't better because it has a better book. In fact, the books of D&D are often more cheaply produced. They're glue bound and not stitch bound. They are very expensive. And there's something vital they seem to never truly contain. And that is the tools and the random tables and the means to make your own monsters, cities, content. So many RPGs have that. Even you pick up a pirate board and you go, look at all these random tables and cool ideas, how they inspire you to go make your own book, go generate your own content. It's a revelation when you've read so many other RPGs and you realize they want to give you this one thing and then you can create infinite worlds because it is just in the imagination. And I don't think D&D and their shareholders want that. They want to say, no, we can't be giving them all the tools to make all of this because we want them to buy the next book and the next book. Because it's not about someone making the optimal product. It's about maximizing shareholder value because that's how the world and the economy we live in works. That's number one. A good game is number two. And for an indie creator, a good game is number one. For most of them, of course, they need to make money, but they want to be proud of this thing because it's them doing it. It's them and a couple of, their friends, people they know. And they want a legacy for that. And it's just a pure and better product. And if you've experienced those titles and really have read and look at how the creators describe what they're doing on YouTube, the product of D&D seems unimaginative, stale, lowest common denominator. I still have a love in my heart for this, guys. I don't want to diss your favorite game if that's the case, but uh, go look at other games. Imagine you have never played a role-playing game in your life. Then pick up the Shadow Dark book. Even the quick start set is free online. And just imagine how much easier it is to take that in. Look at how tersely and simply and cleanly it's written, and how it gives you so many tables and tools and names and go, by the way, here's everything you'll ever need. You can make up infinite adventures. And that's even with a free version. Might not be your cup of tea. That doesn't matter. That's an example of what this can be, what this hobby can present to new people. Instead of going, well, not just is there a thick player's handbook like this, that's only a third of what you'll need. And then there's all the billions of other books that they want to keep selling to you. That is just very long-winded passages with actually little meat to it because they get paid by the word that contract writers have to churn out. Look at how often an adventure is just padded instead of something that could have just been in a table. It's like pages upon pages of prose. It's not necessary. It takes longer to reference during a session as well. Once I've seen better design for this, which is less is more crammed in, fewer pages, not trying to make maximum money out of people. That's the best product at the table. And once again, this is not a Wizards of the Coast problem. There's nothing to do with them. You can talk about scandals and all the other things they did wrong. I think it would have happened to any big company that has a huge, some big shareholders shouting at them going like, but wait, we're under monetized. They all would have said we're under monetized because they would have gone, look at how recognizable the brand is. Look at how much money we're bringing in. It isn't a lot. Because, yeah, just one person can buy a book and then the rest of the people in the group can just play it. So they need other means to make money. Everyone would have done this because it's not up to those creators. That's not how the current world and our capitalist society works. Those shareholders say, this is what we need. We want more of those books, and they have to do it. And our hobby's about literally make believe and sitting with your friends and coming up with your own crazy, weird stories. Search for any high rated indie RPG and really look at the source material. See how much more it's in line with that vision of just using your imagination with your friends, and see the watered down product that D&D is. And I think you won't even think it seems worlds apart to me now, even though I still love that world and it's parts of the Forgotten Realms I want to revisit. But hey, it's I've moved on, and I've never been more into RPGs in my life. There's a cool thing coming out every month or two. I go, wow, I'm so excited about this. Can't wait to play it. Jeez, so many of my mothership books are just sitting there. So many great ideas in them. The fan-made content, so phenomenal. Wow. It's a great time to play this hobby, and don't start with D&D is my recommendation, because it's gonna feel very sterile. There are other fancy options, so many. I'll do a video on recommendations, but that was just my rant. This is an emotional thing I wanted to get out. I don't want to say anyone's bad for playing D&D. There's still a place for it. I want it to be better. I want to make that clear. I want this game to step up and somehow go, let's make the simplest, best game. But I don't think that currently the aim is to make the best game, to give people the best experience at the table. It's to sell as many books as possible, and I can feel that difference. Having played that, and I've played 20, 30 other systems, and I've read probably 60, 70 systems. I read them every week. I pick up a new book and I read it and I look at the rules. So having really delved into dozens upon dozens of systems, like, yeah, this is not good enough. If it can get better, I've got my vote. I might recommend it again. Thanks for watching up till now. Random rant, something I wanted to get off my chest. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, whatever. I want to make a lot more of these. I want to get better at these videos. I've got another big one coming about getting new people into the hobby, and that one's going to take some time. So stick around, and hope you all have a good day. Cheerio.